X-handle ALX said, Secretary of the Treasury functions as the CFO of the U.S. government. If the CFO is denied access to spending information, how can he do his job? The people elected Donald Trump, who appointed Scott Bessent to run the Treasury, not bureaucrats. And then Elon Musk replied as follows.
The Dems are trying to hide possibly the biggest fraud scheme in human history.
Here is a meme of Elon Musk about big balls, who is a young, talented engineer from Doe. X-handle. PeterSweden said, why isn't anybody in the European mainstream media reporting on the corruption and scandal at USAID? If it hadn't been for social media, nobody would have known. And Elon Musk made a comment as follows.
Because those media organizations were paid by USAID, and they don't want to confess their crimes.
X-handle The Rabbit Hole said, the Treasury is estimated to have 2023 87% of its budget being used in a fraudulent or wasteful fashion, with an attached image showing federal government waste, fraud, and abuse. And Elon responded with,
the magnitude of the fraud in government payments, your tax dollars being spent, is much higher than you think.
X-handle PeterSweden said, so was USAID basically a form of money laundering? Using taxpayers' money to fund far-left organizations? Elon come back as,
absolute. A reform of the tax code would make sense because it's extremely complicated and there are too many loopholes. Independent media in Russia, Ukraine lose their funding with US aid freeze.
Can we have a serious conversation about starting to impeach some of these judges?
It's time. Just learn that the Social Security database is not deduplicated, meaning you can have the same SSN many times over, which further enables massive fraud. Your tax dollars are being stolen. The reason the radical Dems don't want an audit of Social Security fraud is because they're the ones getting it.
Let me see if I have this right. The Treasury Secretary cannot access any data from the Treasury? Wow. Who is afraid? The secrets are coming out. This judge was not elected, nor was he given the mandate by the people. Enough is enough. We, the people, demand.
A corrupt judge protecting corruption. He needs to be impeached now. Teachers in California spend their time indoctrinating kids in DEI, racism, and sexism, and communism, instead of teaching them the skills that help them succeed in life. This needs to stop.
Radio Free Europe and Voice of America are media outlets paid for by the American taxpayers. It is state-owned media. These outlets are filled with far-left activists. I've worked with these reporters for decades. It's a relic of the past. We don't need government-paid media outlets.
Yes, shut them down. 1. Europe is free now, not counting stifling bureaucracy. Hello? 2. Nobody listens to them anymore. 3. It's just radical left crazy people talking to themselves while torching $1 billion a year of US taxpayer money.
It's now gone many days, and the mainstream media in Europe is still completely silent about the USAID scandal. They use tax money and money laundered it into far-left organizations around the world. And they funded mainstream media pushing the woke mind virus.
True. Send your friends links to X so they know what's actually going on in the world versus the propaganda bubble of legacy media.
Why is Elon Musk supporting Ron Paul leading an audit of the Federal Reserve such a big deal? Because the Fed has never had a full audit or full disclosure of monetary policy decision.
All aspects of the government must be fully transparent and accountable to the people. No exceptions, including, if not especially, the Federal Reserve. I'd like to propose that the worst 1% of appointed judges, as determined by elected bodies, be fired every year. This will weed out the most corrupt and least competent.
South African political leader Julius Malema publicly said, "We will cut the throat of whiteness."
Immediate sanctions for Malema and declaration of him as an international criminal.
We are $36 trillion in debt, and most of our major cities look like third world countries. We have serious infrastructure problems. Our roads haven't been fixed. Our schools are producing children who can't read a grade level. Our colleges are producing graduates who can't find a job. We have spent 2 decades funneling money into every other foreign country for no reason whatsoever.
Yes, it is now or never. We are at a fork in the road of destiny.
Thanks to Elon Musk and Doge, we can now answer to the question, how do elected officials and bureaucrats making $200,000 a year accumulate multi-million-dollar fortunes? Answer, they're thieves who use covert schemes to loot the Treasury and steal from the American taxpayer.
It clearly doesn't add up.
A quote from Ron Paul, foreign aid is taking money from poor people in rich countries and giving it to rich people in poor countries. And Elon replied that quote as,
Yep.
keep your eye on one thing and one thing only, how much government is spending, because that's the true tax. If you're not paying for it in the form of explicit taxes, you're paying for it in the form of inflation or borrowing.
Milton Friedman was spot on.
Now we can track at Doge progress daily. Seeing $40 million for New York Times, which implies $800,000 subscriptions without any discounts. It's not even clear what the $20 million for AP would have purchased since they are a free news service.
Yeah, it's crazy. My rough guess is that there are tens of millions of media and software subscriptions that are unnecessary in the government.
The U.S. Department of Education spent at least $1 billion on grants advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, in hiring, programming, and mental health training in America's schools since 2021.
Those are just the explicit DEI grants found. Vastly worse is that every education and research grant made over the past 4 years required DEI in one form or another.
People really don't comprehend the implications of this. All of federal contracting and grant funding has been infected with DEI in both blatant and insidious ways, from the programs themselves to the terms of awards to the scoring of proposals. Top to bottom, it's everywhere.
The federal government has forcibly injected DEI into everything. Most people still don't get it. Everything.
Conspiracy theory no more. 2 reasons why fraudulent SSNs were provided to illegals by Democrats. A. 10,000 illegals using the same exact Social Security number voted in Arizona 2020 presidential elections. B. The reason the radical Democrats don't want an audit of Social Security fraud is because they're scamming off a $1.7 trillion slut fund. It's beyond massive.
Wow, this just gets crazier. The Doge team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants. Sending this money violated the law and is in gross insubordination to the president's executive order. That money is meant for American disaster relief and instead is being spent on high-end hotels for illegals. A clawback demand will be made today to recoup those funds.
The more I learn about the UN, one of the largest NGOs, the more I think our support for the UN deserves careful scrutiny. And as Donald Trump would notice, it occupies great waterfront real estate in New York City.
America provides way too much funding to the UN and associated entities. You are right. The truth is that NGOs are used by governments to do things that are illegal to do directly or would be opposed by the public. Super shady. There is a massive effort by the unelected bureaucracy to oppose the elected president, House, and Senate. This is why I say the true and noble battle is to restore democracy, rule of the people, from the bureaucracy, rule of the bureaucrats.